Alright, hey everybody. So this video we're going to cover, we're going to look at set-driven keys again. I know that Eric goes over that in the video that I'm sharing with you as well, but we're just going to kind of do a slightly different take on set-driven keys. It's still essentially the same foundation, but we are going to be using them to drive our blend shapes. As you can see, with all of our blend shapes, since we're doing different shapes for each side of the head, we end up getting quite a big list here, and it can be kind of unwieldy to try to animate these all individually for a number of reasons. Partially just because you'll notice that, like, even with the face selected, you see that I have some keyframes set on the blink here. And that's actually because I have created set-driven keys already for these. But the thing is, like, these keyframes for blend shapes don't show up in this timeline. You know, I could go through and key this and key it back down, and you notice these don't show up. There is a way to turn that on, but by default they're not on. And it can be kind of, you know, depending on your preferences, it could keep presetting. So I find it nice to, here, let's delete these, because we're going to remake them. And, you know, sometimes I find it nice to just have other controls. So if you were in class yesterday, you'll have seen me do this, but this is just a refresher, just so you have the basics down, so it's pretty easy. I'm going to try to keep this kind of short. I'm not going to do the whole face. But for this one, we've been using these NURBS curves and locators. For this one, we're actually going to use a polygon object. We're going to use a polygon sphere, and it can be pretty low resolution because it's just a control. It's just something that we can easily grab and not have to dig through the menus to animate. So I'm going to snap it. I'm just holding V. I'm going to snap it up near the eyebrow. We're going to use this one to draw. Basically, each of these controls is going to drive about two different, I think two. We'll go with two different blend shapes. So let's turn 6 back on, make sure we got it right on the brow. And let's duplicate this now and put this one on the inside of the brow. And third one that we're going to do is going to be down in the mouth. So this is going to be the frown and the smile. This one I actually want to keep a little bit in front because the cheek kind of comes out when we do our smile, so I don't want it penetrating through too much. It's not a big deal if it does, but yeah, so let's just scale it down. So next thing I'm going to do is just label these. Always label. So for this one, we're going to do control, so CTRL underscore L, and this is outer brow. And for this one, we'll do the same essential thing, control left inner brow. And for the final one, we'll do control left mouth. And next thing I'm going to do is, man, I'm getting a lot of these comments today. Let's see. I think there's like a really active thread that I got involved in. So I'm just opening my Hypershade real quick. I'm going to create, so you can see I actually already made these, so I'm just going to stick with the ones that I already made. So these are surface shaders. Surface shaders are nice to use. It really doesn't matter. Whatever you want this to look like, it can look like. And actually, while we're talking about things looking a certain way, I'm going to turn off NURBS curves. I'm going to turn off joints just because I don't want to see them right now. They're a little bit distracting. Sometimes joints are hard to find. I wish that was alphabetical. I could probably set it to be that. But anyway, so you'll see when I put this on, surface shaders do not have any lighting or shadow value whatsoever. So it just kind of looks nice. It's just like an obvious, this is not a renderable element. However, right now it is still set to renderable. So before we even get started on this, I'm going to just hit Control A on these. And to make sure that I don't render this once I'm ready and finished with my animation, I'm just going to go to the shape node, down to render stats, and I'm just going to uncheck everything that we have in here. And that is not going to render any longer. Double-sided, you actually don't need to uncheck. That just has to do, I think, with the OpenGL. Actually, it probably is how it renders too, but let's just uncheck everything. Might as well do double-sided too, why not? Just stay consistent. Alright, so let's start with the outer brow. So basically, all that we're going to do for our set-driven key, we're going to basically set it to go up, moving it up to the, let's see, if I can find it. Again, this is why it's frustrating, so I'm on the wrong side. We're going to set up to this and then down to this. Or, where are we? to that. So first thing we're going to do is undo this. Anytime you're making a control, and I believe this is touched in the other videos, you want to freeze all of your transformations on the control object before doing anything else. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm just freezing all transformations on every single element here. And the reason we do this is, you know, say I do end up keyframing a bunch of things, or like this is a little bit offset for whatever reason. I want to make sure that if I hit, I can just set everything right back to 0 to know that it's right at the point of origin where it should be. And it's kind of like the foundation and the beginning and of everything. Okay, so let's open our set-driven key menu, which is in animation under key, set-driven key set. It popped up in the other window. So first of all, we want to take our control left outer brow and make that our driver, because that's going to drive the animation or the deformation. So then for this part, this is a little bit trickier from just selecting the joints to get our driven. We actually have to select the face first. And let's see what happens with load driven. You can see that all it does is have head triangulated clean and visibility, because I've already locked all of these other nodes. Well, I haven't locked it. They automatically got locked when I smooth bound it. So what I need to do then is to click on facial blends, hit load driven again, and now I have facial blends as an option, and I have all my blend shapes in here. So I want to drive my left outer brow up first. So I actually, and again, I want to do this on translate Y. So basically what we're doing right now is for this control, outer brow, what I'm telling it to do is when translate Y happens, link that up to the value of my left outer brow up blend shape. And that value is, as you can see on any of these, it's this value here. So 0 to 1, I'm actually going to push all these to 1.5 just so the animator, whoever that may be, even if it's myself, can push it just a little bit past if they want to do some extreme shapes. Because I did relatively subtle blend shapes for mine. So we're going to start off at 0 for this one. And we're going to have to link the translate Y to both outer brow up and outer brow down. But we're going to start with up. We're going to hit key to set that first one. And you see when we hit key, we added another. Here, I'll undo it. When I hit key over here, we can see it light up. And so let's go up to about 1, value of 1 here. And for the brow up, we're going to set it to 1.5. Hit key again. And then we can test to see if this worked by setting this to 0. And it looks like it did. So just going to do the same thing again with outer brow down. I'm going to hit key with them all set out to 0. And you can see outer brow now down is set. And let's set this to -1. And I'm going to set the outer brow down to 1.5 just to get a little exaggeration, and we'll hit key. So now we can see when I move this up and down, we're controlling 2 blend shapes, and that's really quick to set up, and it's absolutely worth the time, because now when I want to animate the eyes, I don't have to open my blend shape window and bring this over and have this blocking everything, or have to look at it on my second monitor. And I don't have to worry about the key stuff here, because it's all on this object. So if I keyframe this object, it's much easier to manipulate that in the graph editor and everything. It's easier to access in the graph editor, which is over here, which we have not gotten to the graph editor yet, but we will very shortly. So last thing that I want to do, the last 2 things I want to do, I want to lock all of the channels that I'm not going to be using. So I'm just control selecting or command selecting if you're on the Mac, and then just hold down right, and we're going to go down to lock and hide selected, because all that I want to manipulate is translate Y. So you can see now, if I hit scale or rotate, they're grayed out. I can't do anything with them. And it doesn't gray out these 2 axes, but you can see I can't actually, you know, I'm trying to, but I can't actually do anything except for Y. The last thing is you can see that this goes really, really high. So let's just set a limit on that, because the animation, or the set-driven key, is only on a range of negative and positive 1. So we'll hit Command or Control A to open up our attribute editor, and for this one we want to go to the outer brow, not the shape node, but just the actual outer brow node, and we're going to open the limit information, and we want the translate dropdown, and we want translate Y. So this happens to already be set to negative and positive 1, which is exactly what we want. So now I can just click anywhere on this, drag in any direction, and all that I'm going to get is those 2 directions. So you can do that with the rest of the face now that you know how. I'm not going to take this video any further because it would just be repetitive at that point. But, you know, I would suggest going ahead and doing this if you have the time. I think it will definitely save you a lot of time when it comes to animation next week. If you have any questions, as always, please email me. But that's going to do it for this video. All right, thanks.